my low energy. Oh, hello, we're recording while I'm talking about my low energy. Okay, full disclosure then. As we begin Thoughts on Talks, as we welcome you to Thoughts on Talks, deep dives and digressions from the starting point of Reverend Mike McMorrow's Sunday Talk. Like he's holding his breath. There's no need for that.
Who is suffering from Zoom fatigue?
I don't know if it's just Zoom fatigue. I think it's just general. I feel overwhelmed and confused and a little in pain. My back went out, and so I'm working with that without trying. I'm trying not to go out of the house unless I really need to. So I don't even know if my chiropractor's office is open. I haven't checked yet.
Well, when are you not feeling supported in your life, Malayna?
Exactly. In my head, clearly, it's a state of consciousness. I've been looking at that.
Yeah.
So this week's topic is from yesterday's Sunday Talk, which was the May 17th, as I look at my calendar, Sunday Talk. And we're talking about The Great Work of Your Life by Stephen Cope, and tying it into the month's theme of Listen to Your Heart. And you started your talk about how public health is a type of consciousness, or keeping public health in your consciousness is part of our work. So I think that's important. And I liked how you were saying, if you're like me and wearing masks is, and it was like dot, 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 dot. And I could almost hear all of the choices going through your head and you rejecting them. And then you said, getting old. Do you remember what the choices were in your head that you rejected?
Oh, yeah, yeah. But there is a tip.
Okay.
Right. So it's always good to brush your teeth before putting on your mask. I have that to offer.
See, so some of the mask wearing is for ourselves. It's to protect us from the things that we can't see that might be hanging in the air when we walk into any space.
Right.
And so having fresh, delightful breath is for ourselves also.
Right.
And part of it is to protect other people in case, even if we're not symptomatic, we actually have the virus and don't know it. It's to protect others from us if we cough or laugh or spit while we talk.
And the other thing is, and no one's checking these numbers, but it should be pretty easy to see. There's usually a springtime cold that goes around that too could be thwarted, right?
Yeah.
By the mask, by the hand washing, by the fact that we're staying out of places that have all these common surfaces.
Yeah.
Like door handles, doorknobs, tables.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is part of why we're starting a new normal, is that things that we probably coulda, shoulda been doing all this time to just prevent the annual flu is now so at the forefront of our awareness that probably those other things will be reduced as well.
Well, and we're going to find out soon enough. Frankly, if all those southern states want to go out there and hee-haw it up and mix it up, as the reports are coming in that they're hanging out in bars and not wearing masks and doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
If they want to push the envelope, and we could very well find that it's much safer than we think it is. So
yeah.
as long as they're doing it in North Carolina and not in the San Fernando Valley.
Right.
Or Los Angeles County. Not that I wish ill on anyone, but at some point, and I think this, even the most thoughtful people, and I think Newsom and the people who are advising them are very thoughtful. know, they're, this cannot last forever. And the collateral damage of the poor response at the front end of this thing cannot continue. You know, because I got curious, and of course I don't want to mention this in a Sunday service because I don't know that it's all that productive. But they figure that even had New York shut down even a week earlier, may have saved 60,000 infections. That's 1 week.
Wow. Well, and New York is, because of the way it's set up, it is at one extreme end of a spectrum of people who are interacting all the time.
Right.
And so for people who are in these southern states that you mentioned, they are a little more spread out. Maybe if they're in a more rural area, they're at their farms with their families and only interact occasionally. I don't know if the impact would have been or will be the same for them. So it is possible that maybe nobody in their community has been exposed.
Yeah, it totally is. And,
Yeah.
but you know, Dallas isn't one of them.
Right.
Yes.
The big cities. I was watching a masterclass. I told you about those masterclass episodes. I was watching one from, I think his name is Ron Finley. I could be misremembering it right now, but he's known as the gangster gardener. And he plants in South Central LA. And he was talking about how cities are not made to support life, to support humans. It's made for commerce. It's made to make commerce easier. And so if cities were made to support humans and life, he said, I would be able to hold out my hand and a pear would fall into it. Or I'd be able to reach out and just pluck the food I need right around me. And so he actually went to court to get the right to plant vegetables in the parkways in the neighborhoods in South Central, because there isn't a lot of yard space available for people. And he won. And so he's been working on this project. I'm going to look him up just so I have his name right, because it seems rude to share his wisdom without.
Well, the other thing is that's going to be interesting, right? As so many companies now are finding that they really don't need to come together in offices to conduct business.
Right.
Right? That so many people are working at home. And
Ron Finley, the gangster gardener. So his masterclass is available if you subscribe to masterclass. But he also has a TED Talk and different videos that you could find about him. And of course, the masterclass are really well produced segments. They're like 5 to 15 minutes. And so it's easy to watch in snippets and learn as you go.
right.
But
I think that's great on so many levels. I mean, so if he's down in South Central, you know, there is a heritage of farming in the African American community.
Ah, yes.
Right? So, well, actually, there's a heritage with all of us.
All humans farming.
Yeah. So
Every time, all the way back.
just as there is in trade work, which you don't see much of that anymore.
Yeah.
But
yeah, so cities and communities, I brought that up to tie it into the difference between New York and a more spread out area, that just as any life needs certain conditions to grow, this virus seems to have found the perfect situation in New York. And in people who travel by plane.
6 million people living on top of each other.
Yeah.
Right? So.
Yeah, and it showed like the subway and.
A perfect storm of.
Yeah.
Pandemic petri dishing.
Yeah.
Anyway, so, but, you know, the main thing to remember is, you know, we have to keep out in front of us that this is not a forever situation. But, you know, and we don't need to go on a high dive and jump in if we can't yet swim, right? We can dip our toe and just grab, you know, start out at the shallow end,
Yeah.
our way into this thing. I know for us at the center, we're not going to be gathering anytime soon, which is, you know, it bums me out because
Right.
it's, you know,
Yeah, I know. I miss seeing people in person and hugging. And I know a minister from a church in Arizona. Her church is in kind of a senior living community. And she says, although she's told everybody to stay at home, and she, like you, films her services in the sanctuary and then broadcasts it, she says a handful of people still show up. And so she, because it's only a handful and they have a big sanctuary, she lets them in and they can be in the audience. So at least she has some people showing up, but she doesn't feel right sending them home because it may be that they just, you know, they don't remember that they're not supposed to come or that they really need the
that
connection.
only happened once, and I did send them home.
You did or you didn't?
I did.
Okay.
Because, you know, any one of us could have it on our, you know, we may not be sick, but it could be on our hands, or, you know, we don't know where this freaking thing is right now. So,
Yeah.
anyway, because I ended up, like I said yesterday, you know, I ended up inadvertently being exposed, or not being exposed, but being around someone who tested positive.
Did that person develop illness? Do you know?
I haven't yet found out.
Okay.
I don't think so, or I would have found out about it, but I do want to confirm that. Hopefully she did not.
Yeah. Can you sit closer to your computer? I have my volume up at 100 and I'm having trouble hearing you. There you go.
How's that?
Now you are the voice of God.
Okay. How's that better?
It is. Yeah. Thanks.
All right.
And we can see your shirt better, which kind of goes to the gardening. Enjoy the view. Sink
Yes.
roots deep.
Things you learn from trees.
Oh, that's good.
I got this at the Arboretum in North Carolina,
Oh, nice.
Asheville. Yeah.
I heard that the Los Angeles Arboretum has opened and they're allowing it with, you know, safe physical distancing. So it's, and some of the trails are open. I don't know if all of them are.
Well, I was just up at O'Melveny today. And
Oh, good.
got caught in a lovely springtime rain.
Mm-hmm.
And I was gambling that it was going to burn off, but instead the opposite happened. I didn't go as far as I wanted, but I did. I just got too sloppy up there, but it was nice. It was kind of a Northwest kind of experience.
Cool. Well, that's good.
Soft rain.
Yeah, something I'm not used to because I didn't live in the Northwest.
You lived in Sri Lanka.
Well, mostly here in Southern California. I'm a Valley girl, born and bred. I lived in Sri Lanka for 12 years, but I've been alive a little bit longer than that. I'm not going to do the math.
Well, that's a good portion of your adult life, right?
It's a chunk, yeah, certainly. So you have the slides that we can go off of. I remember you showing a Boy Scout, Girl Scout badge that said, "Be prepared."
Oh, yeah.
When we were talking about masks. And I thought that was a nice shout out since you had a Boy Scout career as a boy. I don't know if it counts as a career.
Well, it does today.
Okay, good.
So I'm going to...
Girl Scout at least until juniors, which was like 12 or 13, I think.
Well, you know, I actually was curious to see what the Scout motto for Girl Scouts was, because I didn't know. And it turned out it's be prepared. And the Scouting motto is do a good turn daily. And that's a practice that I followed even today.
That's lovely.
Yeah. So I suppose that's the random act of kindness thing. But
Right.
but that's, this is how I ended the whole mask thing.
Yes. And then you took us right into an affirmation.
Yeah.
There we go. Today I answer the call to discover, liberate, and express my divine genius. Yes, that has a really affirmative feel to it.
Yeah.
I do have slightly higher energy than I did at the beginning of this conversation from this good affirmation.
Yeah.
And from the heat radiating on my back from the heating pad.
So yeah, the great work of your life is really is not the book that this class was taken from, or this lecture, but it is we're going to be using this as a book study starting tomorrow night. And it's boy, it's a great book. Have you had a chance to read any of it?
No, I've been really overwhelmed because I took on a writing gig just as the pandemic started. So in addition to doing all the research and providing the articles, which involves a lot of search engine optimization stuff as I upload it, and it's been educational and I've learned a lot and I love it, but it's very time consuming.
Yeah.
And then I have projects that I had taken on before that I'm trying to keep up with, and other organizations I'm part of. So I've been feeling a little overwhelmed this past week, and that's why I feel like my back has said, okay, the load is too heavy. You need to be more like that.
Yes.
So
You get like that.
What did you say?
You need to be like that before you get like that.
That's true. So I have been doing self-care and working with what I have to work with. And this sort of thing is, focusing on spiritual lessons is one of the things that I do to examine anything that comes up that feels uncomfortable or challenging in my life. As I look at what is the spiritual lesson that I can use to move me through this, and looking at Dharma and my purpose and using my gifts and talents for the world, just like the theme that's on the screen. It also means that my only purpose is not the work that I do, that it's my life as a whole is my purpose, and the balance of making time to go out into the garden and taking care of our pets and baking a banana bread for a friend, or that kind of thing, to remember that my whole purpose.
Whoa. Back up. Banana bread for friends.
I was telling my friend in New York who has recovered from having the COVID-19 virus,
Nice.
that I was baking banana bread at like midnight the other night. And my brother, who lives next door, was watching Hansel and Gretel at the same time. And so he had like smell-o-vision as the witch was, baking
Right.
evil little loaves. So I was telling my friend that, and he was like, just like you, banana bread? Can you make me a loaf and send it? And then he started making requests for ingredients. So
right.
He wants an Elvis style banana bread that involves chocolate chips and peanut butter chips.
Ooh.
So I'm gonna try. Every time I cook anything, it's an experiment. I never know how it's gonna come out. But baking I'm better at than just, normal cooking.
Yeah.
So, if you want to have a sample of the experiment, I might be convinced.
All right.
part of the Dharma, right, is to do something and share it. Something that you do anyway, but share it to just bring joy.
Well, and to honor, whatever calling is within it.
Yeah.
So a lot of times if we're feeling the call, then that means it's ours to do. So sometimes that call can feel like, in the beginning, it's always pleasant and, oh yeah, sure, I'd be happy to do that. And then you get on overwhelmed.
I was struck by the way she held her phone though, because it looks like she's kind of gripping it hard. Go back to the girl. I don't know, something about the way she's holding it. Like, I'm like, is that posed or something? She looks like she's doing this, but I tend to do this. So, I don't know. It just struck me, like she's smiling, but is she really?
Because I always have the speakerphone.
Ah, okay. So then they wouldn't have taken a picture of you for this stock image.
Earbuds.
There you go. So, and then there's the other guy.
Yeah.
He's doing a FaceTime. Show the dude. Because he wants people to see his angry face.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking that sometimes, even when I think there's a romantic notion that when we're heeding the call, answering the call, that, it's all, rainbows and unicorns and the scent of roses. And
yes.
But that's not necessarily so. It certainly has that in it. And there is a flow that has clarity, focus, grace, and ease.
Yeah.
But, if it's worth doing, there's going to be challenge in it. And if it's really worth doing it, there's going to be some component that seems impossible. And that's great, because then we have the space to allow the divine as source, as inspiration, as a consciousness of creativity,
Mm-hmm.
Of curiosity, of being willing to blow up the old structures in order to let something new come forth.
And I feel like when you're doing something that is really a calling for you, that is a passion for you, it gives you that sort of raised ability to face all of the challenges. Because if you don't love it, if it's something you're doing for money or because you have to, or for some other reason that doesn't call to your heart, it's going to suck the life out of you eventually. So you need to have that joy and passion and excitement to get you through the difficult stuff.
Right. Otherwise, your karma can get in the way of your dharma.
Your karma might run over your dharma. No, wait, dogma. That's what it is.
That's what it was. Yeah.
Your karma ran over my dogma is the joke that we've now totally run over it ourselves.
Yeah. And this is just one of my favorite places, which is Convict Lake up in the Sierra.
Convict?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
You go there if you have conviction.
No, it's named because way back when there were some, I can't remember if they were bank robbers or cattle rustlers, Bishop Valley.
So they are legal convicts.
And yeah, so they ran up there trying to get away from the posse, and this is a gigantic box canyon that has a lake at the top of it.
Interesting.
And that's how it got its name.
Isn't it weird how some names that seem terrible stick anyway? Like Convict Lake doesn't sound like someplace I want to go.
Hey, so long as they're not there when I'm up there.
Yeah. There's a place in Colombo in Sri Lanka known as Slave Island, which, delightful sounding, isn't it? And they still call it that. But I think after a while, the meaning of it goes. You're just saying the words and you know the place. And
So you're sure it doesn't solve.
Oops, you froze.
Never mind.
Okay, I think that was the spirit of electronics.
It's not always funny. Okay. So then, that's my dharma. Not everything I do is going to be abusive.
Okay, that's good.
But dharma is actually, as we kind of explored briefly yesterday, is actually a fairly complex and multi-layered concept.
Let's see the infograph.
And so it has within all of it, the path of virtue or right living. It has this,
It's sort of all the things that can keep you clear so that you can live authentically, right? So
yeah, so yoga, or being integrated in whole, right?
Mm-hmm.
Rituals, rites, and worship. So there's a devotional component to it,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's the sacred duty. Most people are familiar with that idea, and has within it, a sacred of right living, right? Of observing ways of living in a just and lawful way. And then there's also this really cool component of the stages of life, where in Hinduism and Buddhism, there is this recognition that at various stages of your life, you are engaged, generally speaking, in activities.
Certain work maybe that falls to you because of your experience, your life experience.
In the beginning, let's say in the beginning of life, it's about education, obedience,
Mm-hmm.
maybe discipline, and then if you go into the life of being a monk, then it has a certain, basically in Buddhism, what they would call the Eightfold Path, which is kind of the Eightfold Path. What I take from that is that it's kind of a construct. If you observe the Eightfold Path, you're living your dharma.
Okay.
But
should we show a graphic? I can look up a graphic of the Eightfold Path so we can
yeah,
compare.
Please.
Let's try it. Okay, so many images to choose from. I think you have to stop sharing so I can start sharing.
Okay. Stop.
Okay. So let's find the prettiest one. Let's try this one.
There you go. Here's the wheel.
There's lots of wheels. Let's see how this one shows up when I click on it.
That wheel is called the Wheel of Dharma, I believe, in Buddhism.
Yeah, I think you're right. That's not the wheel I clicked. Oh, this is. Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
So I like how they put the world in the middle of that wheel.
Yeah, cool.
So these correspond to...
Yeah, they do, don't they?
Yeah, pretty well. I don't see necessarily a focus on age, but right livelihood might focus on different life stages. This one, it is an ecological one because it has focused on nature, managing climate stress. I just picked it because it had more colors in it, but now I'm seeing it.
I think you have an agenda here.
I have a dharma that angles toward wanting to be a good earth steward. Let's see how that one's simpler. Here's one that has a little head in it. From Tricycle, the Buddhist Review. Oh, it has the Sanskrit, I think, wording. Wisdom, ethics, and concentration is how that the 8 are divided. So
I am also looking up. Let me just.
I'll stop sharing for a minute since you're looking up other stuff. Maybe we can find a nice Eightfold Path versus Dharma image.
Oh, here we go. The 4 age-based stages discussed in Indian texts of ancient and medieval eras. The 4 ashramas are brahmachara, which is life of the student, grishahasta, which is the householder, vanaprashta, retired, and sannyasa, which is the renunciate or a monk.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, so the ashrama system is one facet of the Dharma concept in Hinduism, which, you know, the little bit of I know about Hinduism is that it's a pretty wide open, multifaceted tradition.
Well, yeah, it's a system for living, holistic.
And it's, you know, India is a big place.
It is.
You know, and when you consider how long humans have been there, it's not, well, it makes sense that it would be a very diverse, multi-path approach.
Mm-hmm. And I like the idea for the age ranges. I think technology has kind of thrown off this idea that elders know better, because kids today, even more than kids in my generation or the generation before, tend to think that the older people don't know anything, or
Right.
it's been so long since they've been in the same situation that it couldn't possibly apply. But with social media and all this online presence, the older people really don't have the same kind of contribution or advice that they can give, because it is a whole new world. But that doesn't mean that they don't have useful life advice to give.
Yeah, exactly.
Just maybe harder for younger people to see that. So.
Yeah. Well, and that's, you know, that is a kind of an age-old situation.
It's just not built into our culture very well now. I mean, like if you look at the Native American culture, they have a system for the elder council to, you know, meet and vote on things. Whereas in our society now, that's based on advertising and commercial. The youth culture is what sells. So.
Well, here's this quote from Mark Twain, right? So that would have been
early 1900s?
Post-Civil War, right? After the Civil War.
Yeah.
As a boy of 14, my father was so ignorant I could hardly stand to have the old man around. But when I got to be 21, I was astonished at how much he had learned in 7 years. Right? And I think that, you know, cleverly describes, you know, this idea that the youth do discount.
And kind of always will.
Yeah, well, but you know, and then it's also on us. Well,
right.
On me as an older, when I get older, losing my hair, 64-year-old soon to be, that, you know, you need to act in wise ways if you're going to
be seen as a wise elder.
Yeah, exactly.
So I looked up Mark Twain. He was born in 1835 and died in 1910.
Yeah, there you go. So the end of the 19th century.
Mm.
Yeah.
Is that how that works?
So yeah. So his books probably would have been popular right after the Civil War, I would think.
Mm-hmm.
About 30 then, 30-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So what other slides do you have for your slideshow? Because you mentioned before we started recording that maybe you didn't get all the way through your slides during the Sunday service.
well, let's see. Well, I did get to this,
Yeah.
and this was the Ernest Holmes idea that the universe holds nothing against us. If we will train ourselves to listen to the inner voice of truth, which speaks to us in our moments of quietness and solitude. So, of course, that was tied to this idea, and this has been a common theme because I think it's just, I just know within my own life experience that, there is this restlessness, like I said yesterday, right? So I'm moving from feeling rested to restlessness.
Yeah.
And, just, tired of eating my own, eating our own cooking, the thing about going out and dining out, it's not just about food,
Right.
right? It's the convenience of just, ordering something and then somebody else cleans up after you, right? And that, so I just appreciate how Stephanie has, stepped up to do all that, because if it was left to us, it'd be, cereal.
Yes.
Yeah. So, in fact, we are rewatching the TV show Fringe. Did you ever watch that?
I love that show.
Right. So Olivia, the main character, once in a while they have a little shot of her living at home as a, workaholic single woman, and going to the fridge, and there's like one bottle of mustard and a little jar in the door, right? Which is classic. And of course, you see her pouring cereal in the bowl, right?
I would like to start. Maybe I'll start watching that again.
That guy Walter Stone, or the guy that they, I don't know if they met the guy and then decided to write this eccentric part for him. That actor is so well cast for that part.
He's the dad?
Yeah, he's the mad scientist dad.
Right.
And
he's played kind of a mad scientist villain type in a ton of things that I've seen since then.
I've never seen him that I'm aware of, but he has he just has the best face and
voice.
And the voice is really amazing.
Yeah.
But at any rate, so Mike, this has been a common theme for me to just take advantage, because the truth is that we are going to go back to the way things were. And then we're going to be bitching about being stuck in traffic, and how we had to wait 30 minutes to place our order, and that there was no place to sit, and
growing pains. I think we're in the process, if we choose to be in evolution rather than de-evolution. And that involves, bumping up against things over and over again until we find our way through.
Well, I hope so. I just always feel like, I hate to be, even though as I'm holding a greater truth, knowing a greater truth for us as race, the human race. But our tendency is to go back to what we know.
Right. Well, what else do you have in your slides? Do you have other wisdom to share from that you had previously studied?
Well, Thomas Merton, I love this one, that every man has a vocation to be someone, but he can only be one person, and that's himself.
There's a song by Harold Payne that he says, I can't be anybody but myself because everybody else is already taken.
Yes, that's very clever, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
What else you got there? Oh.
Song of the silence, forever singing in my heart. Words cannot express, the tongue cannot tell, only the heart knows the songs which were never sung. The music which was never written. I have heard that great harmony and felt that great presence. I have listened to the silence, and in the deep places of life I have stood naked and receptive to thy songs, and they have entered my soul. I am lost in the mighty depths of thy inner calm and peace.
Did you read that yesterday?
Nope.
I didn't think so.
No, I went off on a tear on something else.
You remember what it was?
No, I think I just started doing a treatment at the end.
Yeah, you did get all fired up at the end.
Yeah.
There's some fire.
Do you remember? Okay, you exist that divine feeling, fire, imagination, creativity may be expressed through you. The Spirit comes to you with a new and fresh creativity. You need not ask others what they have done, or how they have done it. Be yourself. Express life as you find it. Never imitate. Trust the self. Find the self in God and God in the self.
It is a lifelong process, though.
Absolutely.
And a practice of always checking within. The goal, oh, where'd you go? The goal in life, whoop. That's a fun game. How many words can you read before the screen is changed? The goal in life is not to attain some imaginary ideal. It is to find and fully use our own gifts.
Yeah, and that's what this book, The Great Work of Your Life, which I think will be a good way to end up our Power of Eight groups, is to just spend a little bit of time, because this book is part of Bhagavad Gita and part biography. Exploration of the Gita through the biographies of these various people, like Thoreau, Harriet Tubman, a painter named Corot, I think that's how you say his name, C-O-R-O-T.
Okay.
An impressionist painter, Robert Frost, and then friends of his, and his mother. Yeah. So anyway.
What other slides do you have? It looks like you have at least one more.
The insistent and universal desire for self-expression is the divine urge within us. Even God himself tapping at the walls of our heart, urging us on to a fuller life. That's taken from Know Yourself, which I don't know who wrote that. But.
Okay.
And then this is Ernest Holmes. This is the last one I had. That the Spirit is in every living thing, is in every soul late, simply wanting, waiting to be brought forth and come through the avenue we express. It is to bring out these great realities of life and happiness, health, love, and power, to supply these things that make life worthwhile.
I've been watching a lot of like World War II era things. The most recent was the Guernsey Book Club and Potato Peel Pie Society, which is, I think, on Netflix. It might be on Amazon streaming.
Potato peel pie?
Yeah, which they explain.
Oh,
It came out of being in curfew and having rations and just trying to make something to offer to friends out of whatever they could find. That it was Nazi occupied island of Guernsey off of England. It's in the English Channel. And it's a lovely movie. Anybody is looking for something new to watch. But the thing that has come out of watching all of these movies and stories about people going through extreme hardship and challenge is that the human spirit comes through and connection happens and people help each other and love happens and, you know, life continues. And that we're the ones who choose how that comes through us and how we co-create that with our friends and family and neighbors. And so in this movie, what started off as a made-up thing,
yes.
To make an excuse to the Nazi soldiers of why a group of people were out past curfew, became something that really shaped the rest of their lives in ways they couldn't have imagined. And so we have that same opportunity while we're in not curfew, but quarantine, to connect and look within and make choices. And we don't know, even like we had the illusion of knowing how things were going to turn out before, like, you know, one of the episodes of SGN, Some Good News, was people are graduating from college or high school, and they don't know what they have waiting for them. Before, you had the sense that, oh, there was a job. Now that I have this degree, there's a job I can get and build a life. And now it's big question marks.
Yeah.
So John Krasinski had Oprah and Jon Stewart, the former host of The Daily Show, and a bunch of different people giving advice to these young people who, you know, have degrees and are ready to go out in the world. And the answer was, you know, follow your heart, create what calls to you, because it's almost a blank canvas. And
I mean, it's certainly not the way it used to be, where you just kind of took the first thing that came about so you could get money. So, because there may not be much to go by, so you might as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you think of like the Wild West, where people, you know, just did whatever work they did to offer to the community to have something to offer and to trade. And that's kind of...
That's a good point. I wonder how the hell that all worked. Right?
No, it did.
Got in your wagon, you head west, and once you get there,
It might have been much the same. Like, okay, what do you people need? Well, we need somebody to make horseshoes. Nope, I can't do that. We need somebody to be our post office. Oh, okay, yeah, I'll be postmaster. You know, something like that. You choose from the talents you have and the abilities you have and whatever tools you've gathered. And
I never learned how to read. What am I going to do? Well, I think they had people who would like write letters for, you know.
Yeah, even going back to like ancient Greece and stuff, there were scribes who would write letters for you.
Dear Theophilus, long no see. Sparta's really cold this time of year.
Exactly.
And people keep dying needlessly.
Doesn't that happen?
But
Do
the
all
rest of
time
us
period.
are tough as nails.
Yeah, so I'm just finding history and stories from different eras comforting in this time because it shows that people have gotten through really tough things that
Yeah. I try to watch boring stuff at night.
so you can fall asleep.
Yeah. I set the timer on my little iPad.
Okay.
And so I try to find anything about math. So,
That does it for me too.
yeah, I can, it's interesting for about 10 or 15 minutes. And, oh, yeah, this is really,
Yeah. So as far as Dharma, not everybody has found a career that they loved or that they, have their own brand and leave behind a body of work.
yeah,
For most people, they have been themselves in whatever situation they needed to work within and have brought whatever love and light and joy and wisdom that they had to share. And that really is, like Maya Angelou said, people may not remember what you say, but they'll remember how you made them feel.
right.
And so that really is the great work of our lives, is to make those heartfelt and spirit level connections with each other.
Well, and there is something, I don't know why I enjoyed building things, right? I mean, it's not something that I grew up in the Air Force out in the middle of nowhere, so there was no civilian life, right? I mean, you had to travel, I don't know, half hour, 45 minutes to Lancaster to get to civilization.
Okay.
And such as it was in those days. So this is before it was all built up, of course. But I always have kind of felt like there was a calling there. Because I remember just really taking to it. And because it didn't pay, right? Well, in the beginning, it paid well. My first construction job, I was paid in let's see, that would have been the summer of '76. I made $5 an hour under the table, which was great money. Minimum wage was like $1.65 at the time.
Oh, wow.
And it took me like 3 years when I moved to the Northwest to make that kind of money again.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it wasn't about, my point is, it really wasn't about the money in the beginning. It was just about, being outside. And of course, there's a lot to know in the beginning. Maybe that was part of it. And there's a certain logic to it. It's physical and all that. But, and I did enjoy it for many years. I mean, I did it over 30 years before ministry. I hope that these young people can find that slot, that maybe it doesn't make the kind of money that they would have liked, but at the end of the day or the end of the week, the only thing that they're kind of bitching about is their paycheck. Like, I love everything about it except what I'm being paid. And
enough is as good as a feast.
And if you can get to that point, then you can get, you'll figure out a way to get the money, to get the cash flow up.
Yeah, enough for what you need.
Yeah, because actually, when you think about it, the money part is, that's kind of the easier part because it's not, money isn't really creative per se. So, it's like skill level, right? The skill to be a web designer, right? So then, there's a knack to figuring out how to monetize these various things, and that's definitely part of it. I don't
Mm-hmm.
minimize it. But, you know, if somebody finds that, you know, they just like doing that kind of thing. They like the way it all comes together. They like the puzzle. They like the, you know, finding interesting graphics or creating, you know, that maybe they're artistic, whatever. Anyway.
There's also that sometimes we need to realize where we don't have strengths, where our strengths do not lie, and to turn to somebody who has those strengths and create a partnership. That we're not really meant to be all self-sustaining all the time in everything.
Right.
And so when we can identify, hey, I'm not good at sales, or I'm not good at numbers, or I'm, you know, that part is what sucks the life out of me in my business, then you find somebody who you can work with, who will help you with those things.
Well, sometimes you don't know what you don't know also, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I used to say all the time, I don't want to do sales. I'm not any good at sales, blah, blah, blah. And then when I had my own company, you know, I had to become good at sales.
Then it's almost a different feeling, because what you're sharing is what you do and what you love and what's important to you. Whereas if you're a salesperson for someone else, you're pitching something that maybe doesn't have a strong internal connection for you.
Right. Well, and I think that's the trick, right? So you have to find a product that you believe in, and then it's easy to do.
Yeah.
So anyway, so we'll just, you know, we're just going to know for these folks that, you know, that this is just a hiccup, and that they can find their slot and make their way into the various career paths, that they're flexible in their approach to things, and that ultimately they will be successful.
And for any of us, and I mean, a lot of industries are shifting and changing through this situation. So
I'm going to be collecting my Social Security in about another 6 years, so I need for them to get established and get to work.
well, I'm sure they will listen to this recording and pick up and go.
Yes.
Yeah. So you will be continuing the exploration of the work of your life and the book from Stephen Cope. It starts tomorrow, Tuesday night.
Right, 5:30.
And anybody who's interested and wants to join can go to the website, CSL, or do you want people to?
Yes. I mean, if they're going to watch this in time to join it, sure.
Okay. You can email revmike@cslgh.org.
Right, and they'll have to Kindle the book.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's, you know, I haven't been advertising it because I wanted to make it as kind of a Power of 8 kind of thing.
So now I've invited non-Power of 8 people.
If you were watching, Avinu, I think, is coming anyway, so.
Good, and I'm, you know, a lot of times when you're teaching a class on something, it sort of works its way into your Sunday talk, since that's where your focus has been. So I have a feeling we'll be exploring it on Sundays and on Mondays for the next several weeks as well.
Maybe.
It could happen.
It could happen.
So for anybody who's still watching, you can see all of the Sunday talks on the Centers for Spiritual Living Granada Hills YouTube channel. There are playlists, not only for Thoughts on Talks, but for Flourish and some of the talks.
And you have podcasts available now.
Right. So Thoughts on Talks is now available as audio only, as a podcast. And that could be found pretty much any place podcasts can be found. Bless you, as the Rev sneezes. And so that's something that you can share with friends and fam if they want to listen to us and not stare at us, and they'll miss out on our screenshots, but hopefully they'll catch up.
Or they can't sleep.
And come back next week for another episode.
On Talks.
And thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Toodaloo.
Peace, love, dove.
And you get to stop recording because you're driving.